My name is Stephanie Wolf, and I'm the Membership Relations Coordinator at Population Connection. Thank you again for joining us for our first virtual event of 2024. We've entered our fifth year of virtual events, and it's been an honor to host so many incredible speakers during this time. We certainly learned so much from these experts, many of whom are based in different parts of the world. Now, today, we're lucky to hear from Florence Blondel, Content and Campaign Specialist for Population Matters. Florence was born and raised in Uganda and holds a Master of Science in Population and Development from the London School of Economics and Political Science. She's an award-winning journalist and digital storyteller, passionate about the environment, health, science, and the rights of women and girls. Now, if you have any questions you would like to ask Florence, please drop them in the Q&A box that is found at the bottom of your screen. We will do our very best to get to those during our Q&A session, which is facilitated by our senior analyst, Hannah Evans. And then for any questions we don't have time to answer, we will provide written answers along with a recording of this presentation, the presentation slides, and access to the chat box discussion. Now, those are all the housekeeping items for me. So I will go ahead and send it over to you, Florence. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. It's really a pleasure being here with you. I always attend most of your events, so it's interesting that I'm now the one really giving a presentation, but this really is amazing. It's amazing work that Population Connection does. I admire it greatly. We practically cover everything that I'm passionate about. Same as the organization that I currently work at, Population Matters, a UK-based charity. Really, they promote positive, practical, or should I say we promote, and ethical solutions, encouraging smaller families, inspiring people to reduce excessive consumption of course, and helping us all to live within our planet's natural limits. And we do this with the approach of, looking at women's rights, environmental sustainability, and that's why we have many projects like in different countries to our Empower to Plan project, really working with partners, which is something that I see Population Connection does a lot. Yes, so I'm really happy to be here, and I will not bore you so much. I'll try to be fast. And in trying to be so fast, please stop me because I get so passionate and get lost in everything and I just start rapping. So Stephanie, just scratch a bit. So yes, I'll just talk a bit about my background, a bit of the demographic trends in my country, why TFR, that is sort of fertility rate, shall talk about that more, is still high, was been stagnant, sub-Saharan Africa, Uganda anyway, in particular, that's where I concentrate. A bit about, really the implications of population growth on the environment and solutions really that I promote, as well as my organization and even, Population Connection. And of course, digital activism, which is what we are here to talk about, but I might get lost in the background of being a Ugandan. So yes, I am a born and raised Ugandan. I only left permanently in 2015. I went to do my master's at the London School, as she has told you, in population and development. They were covering all sorts of issues that I was working on as a journalist in my country: sexual and reproductive health, population, environment, looking at the interconnection. So I loved that so much about that course, and that's why I applied for it. And as luck, I got it on a scholarship, which is a saving grace for most girls in that country of mine. So yes, I've been that lucky to have, a high education from primary school, secondary, primary school, like back home. I guess these things we shall discuss going forward. You see about 40% only can, complete primary school or have some level of primary school. When it comes to secondary, when it comes to girls, just about 29%. That is really sad, but I'm glad I got through that. And, no one should really put down getting educated to a high level to lack, why are we living like that? Anyway, so I've been doing a lot of journalism, in my past life, and I consider myself a journalist for life, because if my station right now wants, any comment or any story, I'm going to do that for them. I remember when there was COVID, like I'd left journalism, but there was COVID and I had to do a story on contraceptive, access during the COVID era, and I filed a story for them. So yes, I'll never get out of journalism, but it really helped me a lot because, like I said in my intro, which they sent out in the emails. I was really traveling all over the country and witnessing all sorts of perverse things happening, young girls, especially, they're just, getting married off at early ages. See all of this. This is me really traversing Uganda, and I've noticed something else. Amdat, Nakapritrit, this is like northeastern Uganda, really the most neglected areas in the country. And this is really one of them. And you find the first one where I have something around my neck. I think I was covering a story on female genital mutilation, whereby this young woman, the right to passage to becoming a woman and getting married was her getting cut when she was 9 years old. And she was ready for marriage. And she has like now 7 children. And she's like, I want to start, planning for my family and, stuff. But it's just, that's it. Even without developing breasts, as long as you're cut, that's it. And that's why we need to really fight the things and end all of that. And yes, here where you see the background, there are kids, and there's that gentleman holding a stick. That's a father of about like 10 children, like most of them, was it even more, girls. And he had just sort of one to his friend. She was 14, and he said, oh, well, you know what? I told him to wait for her when she's 15, but of course she's going to live with him in the house. When she turns 15, then, you can start having sex with her. But he has given me 40 goats and 40 cows, which is quite a good number, I must say, because some girls are sold for less than that. Just one, the areas where I was in Kamuli, I think Kamuli district, I found a woman who sold off her child for just a kilogram of sugar and a bar of soap. That was the need at the time. So this tells you a lot, that we also have high rates of poverty, which is something I haven't yet introduced. So there's all these interconnected things that I kept seeing, coming out. Here I see Amudat again. Yeah, I was just talking to a group of women, and this is my first time when I covered stories on menstrual health. When I joined journalism and I was at the station, my boss was like, Florence, no one has ever done that here. How are you even going to write a script about menstruation? It's a taboo. How are you going to bring that out? I was like, you know what? I struggled a lot with this thing when I was a young girl. Like, that stench even lives with me, When I started out and I didn't have an idea on what to do, what to use. I didn't understand my body at all. My mom died when I was like, 9, 10. I didn't know anything, but I had an idea that, okay, I could use a cloth tore off from my uniform, and this is something I was using stench. So, all these things really were driving me into this career of journalism and just advocating for young girls, especially, and women's rights and children, the most neglected really in the country, as well as in most of sub-Saharan Africa. So all this really drove me into doing all these sorts of stories. And from this thing, you can see that I try to be all over really the country and experience what they were experiencing. So anyway, just going to demographic trends briefly, really in the country about wealth. UN would say, some say 45, 47 million, 48 million, but thereabouts. Even the Uganda Bureau of Statistics estimates about 45.5 million, but it keeps changing because every year we are adding about 1.3 million babies, to the country. And of course, we have over like 2.3 million, pregnancies. Yeah, so I guess we'll talk to that along the way. To the fertility rate at the moment, we are using the 2016 demographic health survey, but they did another survey which is about to come out soon. But so it's still at 5.4. It has slightly reduced, but there was a time it was really high and persistently high anyway. So, but it's real high, and the UN considers anyone above, 4 point something to be high fertility country. And that's where we are really, alongside countries like Nigeria, Niger. Although Nigeria now, I think it has gone down with their latest demographic survey. So hooray to them. And then mortality, obviously, when you're talking about population change, population growth, you look at things like mortality, fertility, aging, urbanization. So yes, we've come a long way, honestly. And we are doing well, I must say. I give credit to the Ministry of Health, because when it comes to under 5 mortality, it has really reduced. It used to be high, and now we're just, 64 is high, because I was looking at other statistics in other countries, which we call the so-called high-income countries, or in the global north, Western world. whereby they're just, under 5. The second which has 2, I'm like, wow, why do we have all these deaths? But trust me, we've come from far. Nigeria, I think, is still like above 100 here. So that is an improvement. 336 also women really die during childbirth, pregnancy-related causes, and after giving birth. So that is, of every 100,000 births, those still die. About 16 to 20 women in Uganda die every day. And things like contraceptives can really stop this. Things like not being obsessed about population growing, which really affects the girls and the women, because you're the ones really contributing, you're the ones giving birth. So all of that, but there is some slight improvement, but we need to be under 70. You can imagine under 70 for the maternal mortality, really, a relatively, which will say, okay, fair enough. But like I said, other countries are below 5. I think the US, you guys here, the US, it's about 10 or something like that. Should have looked into that. Yes, maybe Hannah will enlighten us. So when you look at GDP per capita, honestly, it's laughable. It's sad. Not laughable, geez, really? When you think about it, like, what's happening? Obviously, when you say it in Ugandan shillings, you're like, okay, maybe it's about 3.6 million Ugandan shillings, which translates into under $1,000. Just that. I think we have one of the lowest, alongside countries like Mali, which also really poverty struck. But now compare it, because now I'm comparing it to these countries where I've lived, which are high income countries. The US, the UK where I was living, 46,000, Then the US, $76,000 compared to ours, 1,000. So you can imagine life in Uganda. And then guess when you come to talk about, consumption and stuff like can person in the US live at that, Can we all live at that? Maybe when we start talking about, okay, Ugandans are not even, contributing to climate change. So can we live like Ugandans? What kind of life are we living, under that? And trust me, not every Ugandan is getting even that money. People don't even know what $1 million is. So that's what it is anyway. But like I said, we are improving, obviously. Per capita health, pathetic. Honestly, that is like one of the saddest. And we signed up to the Abja Declaration to have, health budget above 15%, but no. I just heard recently they reduced from 9%, which was relatively okay, to 6%. And you know what suffers mostly? Sexual reproductive health services, family planning, services like, hey, some people tell you family planning is, what, are you sick? It's not a disease. In a country where we have so many diseases, which are claiming our kids, they're also preventable, by the way, like malaria. So it is that absurd. Gender inequality, I was looking at the Human Development Index, and well, yeah, closer to 1 from the 0.5, but yeah, these are among the kind of the highest rates. And you look at countries like Nigeria, like 0.6, 0.8. And I was looking at other countries which are like closer to 1, 0. Like, really, what did we eat, honestly? So yeah, I would love for this really, to come down. CPR, that is the contraceptive prevalence rate, 39%. Trust me, it has really improved over the years. And 35% of the women use modern methods. And this is just, the currently married women, 15 to 49. I hate calling girls under 18 women, but it's what these, surveys always come out with, 15 to 49 years old. That's most of the statistics that you'll be seeing, in the 336 maternal mortality. Yes, so I'll just really move on. Yes, so just, I just always love using these pyramids really to show, and of course to compare with, like look at the Republic of Korea and some other countries. If I were to show you Thailand, like those years ago, over 40 years ago, 1969, what is this? How many years ago? We were practically the same threshold, everything, poverty-wise, no education, gender inequality, women being treated as, less than nothing. And you look at 1960, at the graph of Uganda, at the pyramid of Uganda, look at the base, obviously, high fertility, And then look at Korea, same, look at the base. But now come to 2023, look at where Korea is and look at where you are. Obviously, all the changes, come with implications, especially now South Korea, in kind of like Korea, they are thinking about, population aging and should we increase birth rates? That's another topic for another day. And I think Population Coalition actually did a good job of discussing about, falling birth rates, where you realize, hey, the truth is that women have been lifted up to poverty. They're getting educated. They have agency. They can, advocate. They can make decisions, regarding their health, their life. If they are to have children, they would go to a doctor and face the doctor and say, this is what's affecting my child, which is something a Ugandan woman in a rural area, and most of Uganda is really rural, will not do. Like, you're not educated. How do you even have the guts to go and face this authority, this doctor, and tell them that, hey, I think my child needs this and this? No. So it is that sad. So I love the change that I've seen in countries like Korea, Thailand, and they did it, even at low. I read a report about health at low cost, even without really having high amounts of money. So it's about the organization, I guess. So yes, we are still a high fertility country. This pyramid just shows you that. So yes, fertility rate, and of course, within regions, like I said, I was in Karamoja, you see that red, that outstanding one. That's one of the areas really I used to frequent the most. I've been Amudat, Embark, all those regions, and it's a sad state of affairs, and we shouldn't really be leaving anyone behind. But even still, look at this map. It's sad, like it's all high. Only Kampala, you can see 3.5. And South Central, you see, 4.7 relatively, but it's still really, really high. And for me, anytime I see high fertility rates, I'm thinking of the young girls, I'm thinking of the young women who are giving this birth. Look, 10 to 14 years, age-specific fertility rate, look, per 1,002. Why? Why are we having a 10-year-old giving birth? Why are we having a baby giving birth to a baby? 15 to 19, 132, this is the UBOS latest figure, 132 over 1,000 live births. That's why we have a high teenage pregnancy rate, birth rates really for the adolescents, 15 to 19. They should be zero. This should be zero. I was looking at that human index report still again, and I was seeing most countries, 2, 1, look, 132, 2, 1, 10, So what is this really? 15-year-olds giving birth. They're babies. It's clear that anyone under 18 is a child. Let's treat them like children. And just saddens me every time those reports come out. Oh, women aged 15 to 49 years. Like, hey, these are girls. They need their future. So what's happening with all of them? They're not going in school. And the last I had when the pandemic happened, teenage pregnancies skyrocketed. Most girls jumped out of school. So I don't know what's happening now in my country. It's just suddenly we make progress and then we go backwards. Yeah. So yeah, what was this? Yeah, obviously rural, urban, women in rural areas have 2 more women than those in the urban areas. And like I said, rural areas, you've not met rural area Uganda. People are over. If there's anyone here from Uganda, please feel free to pitch in anytime you have the floor. You can join me. So you can imagine, the bigger percentage, like in Kampala here, which we are talking about. Kampala is about, I think the population has been growing, but anywhere between 1.5 to 3 million people, and the rest, most of those districts, they are developing, the cities are trying to develop, but most people are already in rural areas, and rural Uganda is really rural. Yeah, so anyway, since I've been talking about fertility, why is it high? High unmet need for family planning, most women want to use. They want to limit. They want to stop totally. They want to space, but this is not happening. But I must say the latest research that I've been reading about, at least most women are starting now to space, and I guess that's the reflection we are seeing in the maternal mortality rate reducing. People never really think about, that demand they put on women, the frequent childbearing, 1 year child, another year child, another year, you just become a factory and it has an effect on your life. And most of them are young girls, So like I said, 25% teenage pregnancy in that country. So it is absurd. Yes, so we have a low modern contraceptive use. We would love to see it really go high, and those even start using, they discontinue because of many reasons, especially side effects. That is something actually I did for my dissertation, looking at, the side effects And women have tales. Some will tell you, you know what, Mama, I decided to stop using. And right now, I rely on abortion. And now this is abortion in a country where it's not really like totally legal. And someone is telling you that they would rather, had an abortion than face the side effects. But these are all misunderstandings whereby, okay, do we have health workers? Have they gone to the health facility? Have they been told that this, this can happen if you use this contraceptive? How about you try this one? Is there a health worker who will, give you that method? Do you know how many methods there are? Do you know the options? Can you try this one this month? And then, let's see how it works out. Can you, bear the weight and see all within all these conversations? So we never get that anyway. And of course, large desired family size, of course, 5 children for men and this has really come down low. So that's not so bad, considering the fertility level now is at 5.4. And countries like Nigeria actually find the desired fertility for men about 7, for women about 6, and the actual they have is 5. When you go to Niger really is skyrocketing. It's really leading out there. I think even their gender inequality index is about 0.7. They could be closer to 1 than most of everyone else. But you can see women are just grounded in childbearing, and just all young girls, honestly, So yes, some preference, like I said, teenage pregnancies, they contribute. How does a teenage pregnancy contribute? You're young, child marriages. You're young, you start giving birth. You saw that 10-year-old, that 14-year-old, at 10, 11, 12, 13. Practically every year you're giving birth. So obviously you're gonna have more children. If you've not died, if you're lucky, yeah, they get lucky. They get lucky, they live. You keep giving birth, year in, year out. And of course that increases, fertility rate, it contributes to it, and the population growth, in the interim. And it's a cycle. On it goes. Your children that you're bringing to life, born into poverty. I've met such, I met one and she was like, I don't even have about 30,000 Ugandan shillings. How much is 30,000 Ugandan shillings? Not even $2, $3. They want to send their child to school and they can't. She's pregnant. She has another one just lucking about and she's just 20. So yes, the median age of marriage, childbearing, it's just childbearing, period. Yes, briefly talked about contraceptive preference, I guess. So I won't really go so much into this, but at least the knowledge is universal. Like I said, the Ministry of Health is really trying, and it partners with some organizations. You see ads around, the US obviously supports health so much about contraceptives. I should have gotten some statistics for that, but it's amazing. And you see USID, they're putting up all sorts of ads, this and that, and people really, the knowledge, it's universal, I must say. It just doesn't translate into use because of different reasons. Yeah, so anyway. One time I was attending in 2019, I went for the African Population Conference, actually. I met the Minister for Health, and she was telling me, you know what, Florence, if we could have demand increase, that would be amazing. So when I looked at the statistics recently, I was like, wow, okay, the demand has really increased. Is she going to meet it? She's still the minister now. That was 2019. She's still the minister. Is she going to meet it? And there are about 6 in 10 women now who want to use a method in future. Will they get it? So that's a question. And yes, I'm a strong advocate for education. And here I was just really trying to show that, if a woman is educated, she makes better choices, not just for herself, but for the child. That's why you see child mortality is going down. Child health is getting better. Obviously, it's still horrible. But, I don't know how we can just, it's horrible, but it's getting better. Yeah, that's the dilemma I have when sometimes I talk about my country. I'm like, oh God, I really want to praise this, but then we're still doing badly. Why are we still having 60 children dying when we can avoid that? Why are these 20 women dying when it's all preventable? At least we can save 17 of them. Okay, we don't even want the 3 to die, but why is this happening? But then you can see the power of education. At least, But like I said, this no education really, I was impressed by the fact that, still 23% usage, it does matter among the uneducated because it's universal. There are organizations which are doing outreaches, going down to the ground and reaching these young girls and women, and they're telling them about, this and that, radio programs. And there are, organizations here actually, Population Media Center, they do amazing work. We have, an office there. They have an office there in Uganda, in my country. So they do a lot of work reaching all these people. So universal knowledge, it's just that there are many impediments to really using the contraceptives. Even Nigeria, which really has one of the lowest rates of contraceptive use, especially modern contraceptives, because they're just at 12%. Yeah, that's really horrible. But you can see, yeah. Okay, so just still talking about education and TFR, and that's why it's important for education, like especially secondary education, which we are not getting, honestly. So look at this. In Kenya, by the way, they are doing so well. Those neighbors of ours, they're just fantastic. Look at where they are, 3.4 right now, for fertility rate. And even when you look at the human development index, they are rated in the middle, those were doing so well, whereas we are the lowest bottoms, the low level, So these guys are doing an amazing job out there in that country. I wish we could just, emulate them. Secondary education does really matter. You can see what happens in Kenya, 3, then 2.8. You can see even in Uganda and even in Nigeria, you see. So we should do a lot of investment in that. But like I said, you come to Uganda, only about 29% girls have any kind of, secondary education. You look at other countries, those which are above us, above the, human development index, everyone is 80%. I was like, wow, 80%. And then I see 90%, and then I see 95, and then I saw 100, Canada, and then another country. I was like, oh, yeah. Still, we've come a long way. We are making progress. 29%. Okay, that's almost 30%. So 3 in 7. Oh, how about those 7? Where are those 7 going? No. So yeah, dropping out of school. That is one of the saddest things. That is the greatest injustice. And well, like, any country where really population is growing, because like I said, when I said even the organization I'm working for, we look at implications from all angles, so environmental implications. Here, I was reading the report, and they say increasing natural forest, that is from NEMA, National Environmental Management, from Uganda. Natural forest, grasslands, and wetlands are being replaced with subsistence agriculture. Obviously, if our population is growing, they want to eat, People are clearing forests. And when I read the biodiversity report, that is the 5th one, I think now they have a 6th one. In the 5th one, they were clear that 40% of environmental degradation was due to population growth. And in my district, Mayuge, where I come from, 100% forest cover, totally gone. How is that even possible? And people are poor. And like one lovely lady, Wangari Maathai, I had a quote somewhere that she said, when people are poor, they'll eat the last forest, they'll cut it down, and they're going to, to keep cutting and cutting, and even going to other places. They will migrate and they'll still look for that. And I feel guilty because while I was a journalist traversing, the country, people are just selling sacks of charcoal. They're cutting all the trees, And I'm like, wow, okay, please, how much is a sack? This much. Give me 3. Boom. Put it on the company car. Take to Kampala where it's really, more expensive, and here it's cheaper. So these guys, anytime they give you like, oh, don't bargain, just give them the money. And you know what you're buying? You're taking these trees on your plate back to Kampala, So you're eating those forests. So you're all contributing in a way. So it's absurd. So biodiversity, we are losing biodiversity. I know these days everyone obsesses over climate change and they forget about the general, biodiversity, the forest decimation, our oceans and everything. But this is happening. Stress on water resources. It's happening in my country as well. Even that lovely Rwenzori, the ice is melting. So yes, it matters everywhere. Even if when you come to Uganda, when you talk about consumption, we're not really doing badly, contributing to, climate change, but still there are effects, they are noticeable, and the numbers matter. And we're not going to stay poor forever, although we're doing quite a good job of it right now. Being stuck in poverty and not getting out of it. So yeah, we might have to request the world to come down to our levels and, you know, enjoy that 1,000 pathetic GDP per capita. You know, obviously some people don't want to use GDP per capita, but at least it's still a measure which really counts. And the fact that you see all these differences, like, hey, I'm a Ugandan, my people are living on just what, 1,000, and here it's 76,000. In which world is that really fair? But it's happening. And then you're going to tell me, oh, no, leave them. They're happy in their poverty. No, we are not. I hated poverty so much, honestly. Like, I was so hungry. I was poverty struck. That's one of the reasons that I got into journalism, or that I got my job, because when I wrote my essay, I just put in all this anger of the things that I was doing to survive. And I was practically cried through the script. Like, wow. You see, another guy, you know what I eat for dinner? I buy this much. It covers dinner, lunch, blah, blah, blah. 200 shillings. 200 shillings is not even what? It's not even $1. God, it's far from $1. Anyway, it's sad. So, but there's progress. Education is happening. Now, this is one guy, obviously, the UK guys claim him, they say he's a national treasure, but I feel like, you know, it should be a global treasure, you know, so all our environmental problems become easier to solve with, you know, fewer people and harder and ultimately impossible. I'm seeing a hand somewhere to solve with ever more people. I'm seeing a hand, Stephanie. I guess I should, I don't know. So this is Sir David Attenborough, a naturalist and a population matters patron, really great guy, I admire him. Does a lot. At least he's been bold in the past, talking openly about, you know, the implications, you know, on our environment from population growth. So that's admirable. Yeah, this is the quote that I wanted to show you guys, which Wangari Maathai, now she's really passed on, but great Kenyan environmentalist. Poor people cut the last tree to cook the last meal. The more you degrade the environment, the more you dig deeper into poverty. So we have a lot of poverty, and it's a cycle. And when it affects, it mostly affects young girls and women, you know? So yeah, growing populations, high fertility rates, it all comes down to the young girls and women. It's the cycle. We're stuck. Anyway, I wasn't really supposed to talk so much about this. I'm just I'm going to talk about really digital activism and what it is. But all this background is what led me to being an activist and being a communicator. And I was into journalism, and now just, you know, I was doing broadcast journalism in NTV, you know, at NTV Uganda, part of Nation Media Group, where I started in Kenya, where I stayed for about 1 year. So yes, I got to really admire Kenya while I was in it. And now every time that I read about it, I'm like, wow, these guys are really leaving us behind. Why, dear neighbor? But that is what it is. So yes, all that led me into activism. And even when I was a journalist, actually, I used to tell my friends that, you know what, you guys, I take all my rumor mongering or reporting on Twitter. Well, I said it in the local language, Uganda, so it sounds better when you say it like that. But, you know, I just mean that, you know, you have to be out there, you have to reach all audiences, you know. We're on TV, but now we need to make use of, you know, social media as well. And that takes me into digital activism. You know, what is it all about? You know, it's growing. There's no turning back. Of course, people think it's a threat to mass media. It's really not. But anyway, so digital activism, it's all about really amplifying your message using social media and any other channels, digital marketing really in general, which encompasses a lot of things. Even here, what we are doing right now, this is amazing. Virtual debates, virtual events, you know, all campaigns really translate into that. But yes, mostly about social media. We all know most of the channels that we have at the moment. Twitter, obviously, we're now running away from Twitter for different reasons, but it's still a great channel to be on. There are people you can reach, especially at a certain age. Obviously, with these channels, when you're deciding to join them, you know, okay, who is on Twitter? Will I find some policymakers there? Will I find some younger people? Are they going to be older? Which kind of messages am I going to prepare for them? So we need to reach everyone. This kind of conversation that we have the change that we want to make in our environment, it requires that we have presence everywhere, and reach everyone cannot be reached easily, you know? So yes, I use so many platforms like Population Matters practically everywhere. And recently we just joined TikTok because like, hey, we need to involve the young people, you know? So we joined TikTok. I was like, okay, we haven't said that we joined TikTok, but we're there. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, which is also a great opportunity, different audience. So yeah, I feel like any organization really which is into activism cannot really give up this space. It's important, you know, to be in, you know, it has a global reach, you know. I'm a Ugandan. I may not get the opportunity, you know, for my station, my TV to broadcast my message all the way to the US, but a tweet can do that for me, you know, and people can rally around that. There was a campaign going on in India. It reached us. I was in the UK. You could see Ugandans also engaging in it. You could see different people, you know, that togetherness, that global community. So that's what's really amazing about digital activism. I feel like we have so many messages and we are practically educators. Now, especially you guys, Population Connection, honestly. You have so much information to give out. You're advocating, your campaigners. You can't really avoid the digital space. So yes, so there's a lot of initiative that is putting this together, engagement, we love our followers. Followers do sometimes the engagement for us. Sometimes you put up posts and you see that practically educating people who come in, you know, trolls who just want to disprove, you know, create misinformation. But then these guys come in and sort of save that. They're like, okay, I don't even need to put my input, you know, there. So like, I'll just sit back. So yes, there's so many digital tools at hand, technologies. So you just have to keep up with it. And yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go into the technical bits of it that, okay, you should do this or plan in advance. But yes, it's all really part of digital activism. Like I said, it's grown from, you know, me experiencing whatever that I've experienced and whatever I see that's still happening, the patriarchy. I don't know how I've talked about the patriarchy in my country. But honestly, we are living in a cesspool of patriarchy society in that country of mine. I told you I come from a polygamous family, by the way. You know, you can't imagine. Recently, my family, one of my brothers went to our villages, and you know, he was getting, you know, documents and everything to give us, and he showed us, you know, we just saw this house. And this is a house where my dad had my mom. The room is here, and then when you cross 1 foot, 2 feet, there's another room where my stepmom was living. What the hell? So it's just that disregard, you know, for the young girls, for the women. So yeah, anyway, all those things, they just make me get riled and want to do something. I want to see a change. And you see a woman actually, wait, I think I took a picture. I'll just run down. There's a reverend. She's a woman in Uganda. Priest suspended over husband's new marriage. She did not marry anyone else, but her husband sought another woman. It's not even a, you know, it's not even a marriage that, you know, that should be recognized, has to be recognized, but she's paying for it because of that patriarchy, you know. So you, a woman, now they're saying she has engaged in polygamy. How? She's not the one who got married, and she's being punished for that, kicked out of this. But if it was a man, it would actually even be celebrated, you know. So it's absurd. And of course, the reason they give, well, the man had to go because she's not giving him a child. He needs a child, you know, so he needs to find another woman. And that's what they do. That's how they end up, you know, accumulating and getting more women. My dad had 4, and we hear of another one, the 5th one. Oh, my dad, bless his soul. He was really a nice guy. He was a kind guy. He also died when we were young. But yeah, he lived up to the patriarchy, which also came from his dad, because my grandfather had about 45 children. Honestly, there's a WhatsApp group. I don't even know who is who. Like, people could meet and marry each other and they wouldn't even know. So yeah, we really have those large families. But yes, gender inequality, now that I'm looking at it, honestly, like I looked at the demographic health survey, about 22% of the men have multiple wives, while 2% of the women say they have, other, multiple partners, but they're not even like official. They actually even do it in hiding, while the men, well, they have all the right. So yeah, we are still really a long way. And well, if you've seen that gender snapshot report where the UN says we are like almost 300 years away from achieving gender equality, yes, we are. And even that gender inequality index where we are like 0.5, it's really bad, it's pathetic, it's one of the lowest. But it is what it is. Hope we'll get there. So anyway, when you see these, back to digital activism, like we use a lot of assets. I put all of this because these are things that we share really to back up our messages. We want people to understand. And like I said, this kind of information that we share, it's not really like easily to consume. People like, they need to understand exactly what I'm talking about. Where is the connection? So to put something in a graph and say, okay, guys, look, 10,000 years ago, this is where we were. Today, this is where you are. Do you like that? Does that look appealing to you? It's now 1% wild animals. How fair is that, really? This is vertebrates, Our forests are getting decimated, biodiversity loss is accelerating. 1 million species at risk of extinction. How fair is that? So we try to communicate all things, using different assets and making sure people understand. And sometimes we do online petitions, which are also really very relevant. We share because in the end, they matter. You need public to support you, and that message can get to the policymakers as well, who act, so we intend to want to change public perceptions. And these areas that we cover, like I said, you guys know, they require behavior change. They require really appealing to someone's, I don't know, inner person to say, hey, look, this happens. When this happens, when you marry off this young child, this is what happens to her. This is the cycle, blah, blah, blah. What do we do about it? We need change, So yeah, I'm glad to see, it happens. It's happening. I see in the US. I know I should have put a story about it when I wrote about, where is the rage for child marriage in countries like the US? Because I was so shocked when I found out that there was child marriage I was like, the US? Come on. I've been talking about child marriage in Uganda, or those countries where it's high, it's up around Africa, Asia. And then I'm like, it's in the US, and it was also in the UK. And recently the UK guys riled up, just recently, and it's been outlawed. In the US, I think now we are on the 11th state. 11th? Out of 50. Like, who came up with that idea of just letting young girls get married here? Although, of course, it's not so high, but it's sad that it's accepted. And people are just fighting, some great organizations are just fighting, to see that it's outlawed on a federal scale. It's not. So yes, this is why we keep advocating and being in these spaces, because you can rally a lot of support, So yeah, what else can I really say about digital activism? I guess Hannah, you can always come in and pitch in, because you guys do the same things that we do. And yeah, so yes, assets always is a kind of the assets that we share and engage, make videos, different graphics all the time, being creative and, keeping people educated at the same time. This is where I really start. So there's of course, a lot of investment goes into it, as it should, because we rely on really generous donors and just individuals, who care about these issues. And they want to see all these messages. We communicate them, do a lot of email marketing, which is just amazing as well. People opening your emails and taking action. That is fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, blogs, really, our website also comes through for us. People just go on there seeking for information, and there are some pages we've looked at, facts pages. You see, they're reading, they're engaging, they're consuming this information, and like, well, we've done our job, really. I don't think we're doing so badly. We would definitely should do better, being in all these spaces and being more aggressive in a nice way. but we should be in all these spaces. And obviously, when you're online, this translates into, you going offline and just that intersectionality. Yes, but anyway, like this, just saying, these are some of the solutions that we always promote, on our population matches, on our channels, really supporting smaller families in wealthy nations, especially because, like I said, we don't ignore the fact that consumption is highest in the high income countries, we don't ignore that fact. And even right now we have consumption campaigns. So we always have campaigns that we are promoting still on our digital channels. So digital channels really are helping us a lot, really, to reach, the world globally, because we are moving, we are going global. We have been going global for quite a while now. And sometimes you may not be able to work with, mass media. Traditional media may not even find you stories sexy enough, to publish. So you do your own publishing, and, the internet does its thing. So that's amazing. But having talked about that as well, the internet is not easily accessible for most people, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. I was looking at, Kenya. Kenya is doing well, actually, because I looked at, in Kenya, women who can access internet, about 7 in 10, but that's in urban areas, they do, and 8 in 10 men, 7 in 10 women, 8 in 10 men. Well, when it comes to rural area, obviously it's less, 3 in 10 women, about 4 in 10 men. So yeah, but still, that's relatively good. But you come to Nigeria, it's just about 3 in 10 women, even in urban areas, who can access the internet, and about 5 in 10 men. Uganda, similar rates. But most people are really getting, mobile phones, obviously. And then when it comes to electricity, because sometimes internet goes hand in hand with electricity, you find like most households don't have electricity. So that's why in the end, you need to still work with, the traditional media. You still need to work with local leaders and align your online campaigns, with on ground, with offline. So it's all really an entanglement. Yes. So I feel like, yeah, these are the solutions we keep promoting on our channels. And I feel like it's something we can do to help lift young girls and women out of, the burdens that they are facing. Yes, what haven't I really talked? I think I've practically covered everything. Stefan, I don't know if people have questions. I saw someone raising a hand, but I couldn't really get them. I don't want to, yeah, these are just things.
Hi, Florence.
Hi, guys, so good
Hi.
to see you back.
I'm
If
back,
I
although
talk people to
that's good.
sleep, my voice might sound like a lullaby.
No, thank you so much. That was a really incredible presentation, as usual. It's always really great to hear your expertise on this subject, and your passion and enthusiasm are very infectious. So thank you so much for this very comprehensive and informative presentation. There are a ton of questions. There's no way we're going to get to all of them, unfortunately, throughout this presentation, but we will follow up as usual via email. You've generated a lot of interest in this subject, and there's a lot of discussion happening in the chat, which I love to see. So that's one of many indications of the great job that you're doing in terms of, popularizing this work and this subject, and working in the field of population to raise awareness and help solve this issue. One question that keeps coming up in the chat, and then with the pre-submitted questions, asks a lot about the cultural implications of access to contraception, utilization of contraception, how that differs amongst rural and urban environments, and between women and men. So I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to what are some of the major cultural barriers that you see throughout Uganda, and how have you, over the course of your lifetime and your work in this space, seen that shift or change? What opportunities do you see in this space moving forward?
Yes, norms. I think I talked about patriarchy. Cultural norms. First of all, culture somehow dictates, you know, you have a larger family, that's it. That's what we've grown up, you know, knowing. And as a girl, you grow up knowing this is your mission in life, you know, to give birth, period. You don't say anything else. The other things are just, you know, they're just coming. But as a young girl, that's what you're expected to do. So there are cultural norms favoring large family sizes. And I already talked about the fact that, you know, I do family sizes now, like in countries like Niger, 13 for women, 10 for men, rather 10 for men, 13 for women. And of course, they have actual fertility, which is as high as 7. You've looked at areas like I showed you a map in Uganda, where in areas like Karamoja, it's as high as 7 point something, and some women are having 10, 13. But you still find these are all areas that are even, you know, mostly poverty struck, and there's child marriage. This is all part of the culture. It's riding the large family sizes. So they're interfering. So, and then we sadly still have the son preference, you know. People still prefer to have sons, even if they forget the irony that these sons are coming out of our uterus, you know. It's my uterus bringing you the son. They obsess over that. So if there is a woman who's just having daughters, until that womb, until your uterus is empty, and you give me a son, if you don't give me a son, hey, I have the right to get another woman. So that's how, you know, families keep growing larger and larger and larger, and women are just competing. I need to try another son, I need to try for another son, you know, and most who are competing are the ones who are not even, you know, educated, like I've shown you the differences. So it is really absurd. This polygamy still drives the large families, you know. I told you I'm from one of them, whereby I've not even interacted with some of my siblings. Some died and I didn't even meet them. So yeah, it is sad. And I just want to say that, you know, there are many examples right now that are doing so great that we can copy, emulate, and, you know, copy from countries like Kenya are doing well. Rwanda is also getting better. We've seen countries in the past like Thailand. I've talked to, you know, Korea, obviously they are those extreme ones, but, you know, they have seen their fertility rates drop from 6 to some under, you know, 2.1, which is the replacement fertility rate, where family can replace themselves. So it's going to take us some time, but this is quite a huge issue. The fact that, you know, you're dealing with cultural beliefs, and people forget that these were beliefs that were just, you know, made up by, you know, men, you know. I don't hate men, by the way, but it is what it is, the patriarchy. That's what it does. And then, of course, the religion, yeah, you know, I know I was going through my stories and I saw one which I was doing. I don't even know how I reported that. I was like, God, I should have done a better job, whereby these guys were like, oh, we've saved 50 women, 50 girls from abortion. We've saved 50 babies. And they're like, okay, now we're taking care of these kids. They're baptizing them. And these girls are going back to their villages, you know. They're all young. They're not talking about the fact that these are young girls, and they don't want to talk about the fact that, you know, there's no sexuality education. They don't want to educate them. I once covered a story of this lovely woman who has teenage pregnancy center, you know, helps these teenagers. And I told her, wow, okay, now they're going to go out. Sexuality education, is it happening? Like, madam, I am a Christian. We only encourage abstinence. Like, you have a group of teenagers who are pregnant here, whom you're helping, and you're telling me you're preaching abstinence? They're going out there and they still don't know what to use. They don't know what to do. What is that? So all of these things really are really getting in that way, but there is change. It's coming. And, you know, like I said, I talked about Population Media Center. They have these great programs, you know, dramas and other things. They're helping people change. People realize that, okay, it's possible to change, you know, and they do these great shows where people live through these characters and they identify. In fact, I even covered a drama group. There's a part where I even danced in that video. I should have shown it to you. And, you know, they just go from village to village, you know, just telling people that, hey, we need to change. A young girl needs to go to school. A young girl should not be just married off, you know, what are these things that you're doing? Why are you keeping women back? And then you see women are changing, they earn an income, and they're like, wow, you know, that realization, you know, they feel like, we can get better. So yes, many girls and women have limited power over their sexual and reproductive health lives. It's still a huge problem. No influence for decision making, and the social realities are still stemming from cultural objections, but they're slowly disappearing. And now we have ministers, like ministers of health, which really care about the people, and they know that these are problems. And you see they actively go and engage with even those local leaders. So yes, I feel like we can turn this around, especially if women can have, sexual and reproductive health, care, they're educated. Education matters, and especially secondary education. If we can attain that for most of us out there, we would honestly be better off. We would be better advocates for ourselves, We would love to earn. Who doesn't want to earn and make their own money and feel like, wow, you can do something about that and just not rely, on a man, waiting still for your child also to be sold off, or a bar of soap. That thing really pissed me off. A bar of soap and a kilogram of sugar. I'll never forget that woman. But at least her child was saved from child marriage. The last I remember, child was taken away from the home and the woman started earning some money. So that was amazing. So yes, we need resources to improve school facilities, because even sometimes we have schools, but they're really horrible. And kids come to school and they can't sit anywhere. So they go back home. The journeys to the schools, ridden with floods, they go back home. They don't stay in school. So many things really are impeding our success, but we can turn this all around. And of course, awareness campaigns, like I said, they are really very, very vital. They highlight the importance of education, the importance of keeping girls in school, So we need all of that comprehensive. I've talked about sexuality education, CSE. I was at the CPD last year, Commission for Population and Development in New York. And there were about 22 countries, including my own Uganda and Nigeria, the usual suspects. And they were opposing comprehensive sexuality education. Like, in which world are these guys living? In Uganda, they even have the audacity to come up with a policy to say, do not give girls under 18 years birth control. But hey, 25% of the girls in the country are becoming pregnant before they're 18. So what is that? They are introducing, obsceneness and what? Guys, I could go on, but yes, I don't know if I've answered that, Hannah, but that's how we are.
Yes, you did. You did actually answer that question very beautifully, along with many others. So thank you for that. We've only got 1 minute left, and I wanted to just follow up really briefly on the overall kind of thesis of your presentation, which relates to a few questions that are posed here in the chat. Just speaking to the role of digital activism and which platforms are most beneficial for transforming norms and changing the dominant paradigms, and what the approach to visual and storytelling is digitally that you use and that you believe to be most effective. And unfortunately, we've just hit the hour. So if you could just keep it brief, maybe 1 to 3 sentences, and then we'll follow up after the presentation.
On that one, I would just say, just follow us on, social media at Population Matters, like just search for everywhere and see the kind of information that we are putting out. And I wish someone from Population Media Center was here to tell you exactly even how they do a lot of storytelling, and, you just like say, engage with local organizations, NGOs and everything, and you align the online communications with the offline communications. That is even much, much better. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Florence. This was, again, it was so informative, and it was really amazing to get to hear from you, who has such on the ground lived experience in a country that has very high fertility and that is struggling with the issues of population, gender equality, climate change, and so on. So thank you so much for being here and to speaking to our audience. We're all very grateful for getting the opportunity to hear from you. And we will follow up everyone who attended. Thank you so much, with an email elaborating more on the questions posed both before this conversation and during the chat today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.